At a Senate committee hearing on June 14, Bureau of Reclamation Commissioner Camille Calimlim Taunton sat before federal lawmakers and delivered a solemn ultimatum on the Colorado River. Without significant reductions in water use, that warning, Lake Powell and Lake Mead, the country's two largest reservoirs, could fall so low that hydroelectricity production could stop in the near future. At that point, the Bureau of Reclamation, which manages both reservoirs, will struggle to deliver water to most of the 40 million people who depend on the Colorado River. Taunton called on 7 states to plan the largest ever reduction in water use in the Colorado River Basin, between 2 and 4 million acre-feet, or about 15% to 30% of total water use in the basin. And Taunton gave the states 62 days, until August 15, to propose a plan, while his federal agency had the authority to make a unilateral decision if necessary. The deadline passed on Monday, and the states still no deal on the table. The upper and lower ends of the basin are looking at each other for further cuts. On a call with reporters on Tuesday, officials from the Bureau of Reclamation and the Interior Department indicated they would withhold a decision to cut the 2 to 4 million acre-feet. Instead, federal water managers will follow plans already in place in previous drought contingency agreements to cut water use by about 720,000 acre-feet in Arizona, Nevada and Mexico, the millions of acres cited earlier this summer. Featuring is much less than a Taunton. California, the basin's largest water user, will not take any immediate cuts because of its senior water rights. Utah also escaped Tuesday without an immediate cut in water use. Water managers typically use acre-feet to measure large volumes of water, or the amount of water needed to fill 1 acre of land with 1 foot of water. The average Utah family of 4 per year approximately uses 1 acre-feet. While officials stress that there is a constant need for states, tribal nations and Mexico to work together as partners, they did not downplay the severity of the water crisis in the Southwest. 30 days ago, Taunton said, "I briefed Congress on the science of the Colorado River, the risks we see for the system and take the necessary action to stabilize the system. The conditions and risks have not changed." Taunton said 7 Colorado River states, which include Utah, Colorado, Nevada and Wyoming in the upper basin, and Nevada, Arizona and California in the lower basin, have yet to take enough action to reverse the decline of Powell and Mead lakes. Haven't. He reiterated a line he used in Congress in June, saying, "The system is at a peak." Taunton did not give a specific time frame for when the greater deduction would be implemented. "Today we are starting the process," she said. "More details will follow about the actions we will take in that process." Will Glen Canyon Dam be modified? Tanya Trujillo, Assistant Secretary for Water and Science at the Department of the Interior, said that all states and all territories will need to reduce water use, and she pointed to the billions of dollars in drought funding available through federal legislation such as Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill and recently passed Inflation Reduction Act to facilitate those conservation measures. The Assistant Secretary also said that the federal government would study possible modifications to the Glen Canyon and Hoover dams. The reclamation will evaluate whether physical modifications can be made to the Glen Canyon Dam to release the water below the currently identified critical height, Trujillo told reporters. Earlier this month, a coalition of environmental groups released a report. It detailed how the engineering of the Glen Canyon Dam would not allow a substantial release of water through the Grand Canyon to Lake Mead if the level of Lake Powell continues to drop. In a news conference Tuesday following the federal water manager's announcement, the Utah River Council, the Glen Canyon Institute, the Center for Biological Diversity and the Great Basin Water Network reiterated their calls for Congress to consider whether new tunnels could be drilled at the base. Yes or no. Allow Lake Powell to drain completely, if necessary, to Glen Canyon Dam. Environmental groups said modifications would be needed to ensure the required water distribution from the upper basin to the lower basin through the dam. Jack Stoss, Glen Canyon Institute's outreach director, said building new tunnels at river level would provide an opportunity to restore one of the most beautiful parts of the country, a free-flowing Colorado River through Glen Canyon. Earlier, Trujillo, and other officials we are focused on maintaining the integrity of the existing structures and the existing system, Trujillo said. And that's our top priority. A forecast released Tuesday by the Bureau of Reclamation indicates that possible power generation at Glen Canyon Dam could be shut down by October if flows below average occur next spring. Lack of consensus among Colorado River states. While federal officials called for partnership and cooperation among states, some state water officials expressed frustration about the planning process over the past 2 months. The Arizona Division of Water Resources Director Tom Buskatsky and Central Arizona Project General Manager Ted Cook released a joint statement. It said on Tuesday that Arizona and Nevada have put forward a proposal that would cut lower basin water use by 2 million acre-feet by 2023 and beyond. That offer was rejected, Arizona water officials said. It is unacceptable for Arizona to continue to bear the disproportionate burden of deductions for the benefit of others who do not contribute. John Ensminger, general manager of the Southern Nevada Water Authority, said letter to federal officials on Monday that, despite the apparent urgency of the situation, the last 62 days have provided nothing in terms of meaningful collective action to help prevent an impending crisis. Utah's Colorado River Commissioner Gene Shawcroft told reporters Tuesday that the Upper Basin has pushed a 5-point plan to study ways to reduce water use, but failed to see a similar effort on the part of the Lower Basin. Critics of the Upper Colorado River Commission called that plan insufficient last month. Utah is fighting aggressively to make sure we use the water available to the state of Utah, Shawcroft said. We don't expect to use more than our fair share. We expect everyone to use their fair share, but certainly hope that Utah will be able to use its fair share. He said that while the 23-year drought in the Colorado River Basin should continue, all but using less water, cuts are not on the table for Utah. The cuts we have to make in the Upper Basin states are cuts that clearly come from Mother Nature, he said. As the runoff comes in, we get a chance to use whatever water is available. Several officials in the Upper Basin states have recently claimed that water use during dry years is reduced because water simply does not have to be diverted. But an independent analysis last month from Jack Schmidt, the future director of the Colorado River Project at Utah State University, Eric Kuhn, retired general manager of the Colorado River Water Conservation District, and John Fleck, an author in residence at the University of New Mexico School. Law found that the opposite was true in the basin for most years. Reviewing publicly available data from the Bureau of Reclamation, the researchers concluded that, on average, the Upper Basin is used slightly higher in dry years, and less in wet years. Slow to Powell pipeline plans. We all have to make sacrifices, Utah Governor Spencer Cox said in a live discussion hosted by The Washington Post on Tuesday, and he pointed to a water conservation law flouted this year was passed as a proof of progress in the state. Cox also acknowledged that Utah's decades-old plan to build a controversial pipeline from Lake Powell in southwest Utah to Washington County could be slowed down, until the level of Lake Powell recovers. We would love to build that pipeline, Cox said. But we're also very pragmatic and believe it's not going to do as well with Lake Powell and Lake Mead at record low levels. Environmental groups, including the Utah River Council, called on Utah to drop its long-delayed plans for the Lake Powell pipeline once and for all and call on all states and the federal government to take steps to address the urgency of the situation. If we don't get the deck-on-deck effort right now, we're going to have to repurpose deck chairs on houseboats sinking in lake,